Excuse me for my voice, but I have never seen anything like it.
You believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Welcome to the show. It's our favorite day of the week. It's Film Friday. Today we're going to be talking about the adaptation of Just Mercy, a story of justice and redemption, starring Micheal B. Jordan. It has Jamie Foxx in it, Brie Larson, a couple other pretty big-name characters we're going to get into in a second. But first, I need to remind you that our Oscars recap that came out on Sunday, those people who have listened to it have said that this is one of the better podcasts that we have done on this channel. So if you have checked it out, thank you so much. If you haven't checked it out yet, you have some time. So I would listen to this one first, and then I would go back and listen to the Oscar one, because it is a glowing review of Parasite, and we talk about the entire night. So if you didn't watch the Oscars, if you want to hear me and my friend Justice break it down for you, you can go check that one out. But first, listen to this podcast, because we're going to be talking about Just Mercy, a movie that I was not planning on seeing, but I was pleasantly surprised by everybody but one actor, and we're going to get into it. So, little backstory. I was not planning on seeing this movie. I know it's terrible. You should support movies that have a majority black cast. You should do that, especially in February, Black History Month. I get all that. But I was not planning on seeing this movie because I had seen this type of movie 100,000 times. The civil rights attorney comes in and is able to get a wrongfully convicted person off murder's row. It seems like a story that I've heard 1,000 times. And I like Micheal B. Jordan. I thought he was very good in Creed. I thought that he had done a couple of really good movies. I loved him in The Wire. But I didn't think that this was going to be the greatest character for him. You come off an action movie. You come off playing a very strong role in a boxing movie. I don't know how you're going to play as a defense attorney, and I wasn't super impressed by him. Jamie Foxx, of course, is a powerful actor, to say the least, and was very impressive in this movie. So I'm going to give you a synopsis of it, but first I need to tell you that the Rotten Tomatoes, which is a site that we usually go off of when we're going off of like what do critics say, what do people say, what because it's a really good, I think, barometer of how things go. So the tomato meter, the Just Fresh meter, has it at an 83, and with over 11,000 reviews, audiences are giving it 99. So clearly, I am in the minority when I say that this was not one of the better movies that I've seen so far this year. Now, I saw it a couple weeks ago. Maybe I'm just a hater, but to me, this was a movie that I came in expecting a whole lot from Micheal B. Jordan, and I did not get a ton from him. And that was really my biggest drawback. The synopsis of this movie is it's set in 1989. An idealistic young Harvard graduate, Brian Stevens, which this is based on a true story, travels to Alabama to help fight for poor people who cannot afford proper legal representation. That is where he meets Walter Johnny D. McMillan, an African-American man who was convicted for the 1986 murder of Rhonda Morrison, a white woman. So this already has a racial overtone to it. Jamie Foxx, of course, plays Johnny D. You start the movie with him being pulled over by the police in what looks like a barricade they have set up for him. It almost looks like he's trapped. The whole premise of this case was that a white woman is murdered, and they're trying to find out who murdered her. So, of course, they're going to find somebody that they can pin it on, and they pin it on Johnny D., an African-American man. So, the story follows Micheal B. Jordan's character, Brian Stevenson, as he travels around trying to find any information that he can on the case and build a case to get Johnny D. off. And that's where we meet what turns out to be the hero of the movie in a lot of respects, a Ralph Myers, played by Tim Blake Nelson, who, that name might ring a bell to a lot of people. I remember him from the movie he was in with George Clooney, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And I've seen him in a couple other movies. He was in Watchmen that was on HBO. He played Reflective Man or whatever in that series. But he's a very good actor, very underrated actor, to say the least. And I thought if we had to have, we're going to get into it in a second when we talk about the MVP. And this guy was the sneaky role player that you need to have in a movie like this. The sneaky guy who had a very big performance that isn't going to get the credit he deserves for it, I don't think. I don't think that when you leave the movie theater, you think of him in that kind of regard. I don't think you think of Tim Blake Nelson as a guy who stole the show, but he's the role player that you need to have to make a movie like this work, and he did an excellent job. The other actress who I was really impressed by was Brie Larson, who, coming off Captain Marvel, and she had a couple of a movie on Netflix. It was called The Unicorn Project, I'm pretty sure, or something like that. It wasn't very good. I didn't really enjoy the Netflix movie. Captain Marvel, I thought, did really good. She is one of the actresses I think that most people are split on because of her portrayal as Captain Marvel. Very outspoken when talking about women's rights, especially in that superhero corner of the cinematic universe. So I think that she's a very polarizing figure. So when she comes into this movie and she's playing a supporting actress, I was really impressed by her ability to kind of take a step back and not overshadow, not overpower really any of her co-stars. I mentioned earlier Jamie Foxx. He is magnificent in this movie. This is one of the better roles I've seen him play. And to be completely fair and be completely honest with you, Jamie Foxx is one of the, if not the best actors when it comes to playing real-life characters. I don't know, something about his portrayal of characters in stories that are based in real life, that these are dramatizations of real-life events. Somehow he always comes out on top when he does stuff like that. And you can talk about his Ray Charles movie where he played Charles, and that was incredible. But for the most part, I don't think I've ever seen Jamie Foxx in a movie where he's playing a real-life character where he doesn't do an excellent job. He's one of the, if not, like I said, the best at doing that. So now it comes down to, why is this movie a B+ instead of an A+? Why is this movie, in all aspects, in all regards, which should have been one of the better movies that has come out in the last 2, 3, 4 months? And it comes down to Micheal B. Jordan, who I thought was going to be able to have this very powerful performance. I thought that everything was set up for him. Like I mentioned, Nelson does an excellent job of kind of being a character you can play off of. Jamie Foxx is a very giving actor in the scenes that he's in. Brie Larson does her best, I think, to uplift Jordan in this role. But, you know, when you need an actor, this really, I thought, could have been Micheal B. Jordan's career, one of the career propellants for him. Like, when you talk about movies that propelled people's careers, of course, Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic, you think Brad Pitt in Fight Club, you think, of course, Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting. Those are the type of movies that propel your career forward. Those are the type of roles that, at the end of the day, when we look back at your career and you're holding an Oscar or an Academy Award, because we're in that, we're still in that mode right now, when you are walking away with trophies and hardware, we think, oh, remember how good he was in this movie. And I thought this was the type of movie that he really could have shown out, really propelled himself upon, the list of great actors. Like Chadwick Boseman, incredible at playing real-life characters. And I thought Micheal B. Jordan could kind of take that corner, maybe build a little bit of real estate himself on that corner, in that we're going to make movies about prominent African-American people, and Micheal B. Jordan's going to play those guys. I have said before, not on the record, but I'll put it on the record now for you, the Kobe Bryant documentary that is going to come out now that he's passed away is going to be very great. But I think what might be even better is when we do the real-life story about him, when we make the Kobe Bryant movie. And I thought, there's a really good commercial of Micheal B. Jordan and Kobe sitting in his trailer, I think in 2016, the ESPN commercial. It was one of those commercials that you see every other day when you're watching the NBA. I thought, he could be the player. He could be the guy that plays Kobe in that movie, that plays Kobe in his, dramatization of his life. But if you put up performances like this that he did in Just Mercy, I can't say that I co-sign it completely. He's always going to have Creed, which is going to be a very good franchise. I could see them making 3 or 4 more of those movies. That's how good Creed 2 was. He's always going to have Black Panther. I can't see them not trying to bring him back in some way, the character that he played. He's always going to get some of these like very good roles. But when we talk about actors who can carry a movie by themselves, I talked about it in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and the reviews that I did about that movie, how I thought that Leo and Brad Pitt were kind of aging out of the ability to carry a movie. Timothée Chalamet, who you might remember from all the A24 films, and he's in Little Women that I really enjoyed. The King, I think, is on Netflix still. You can go check that out. But I don't think he's a big enough actor to be carrying movies by himself either. And this is a movie, Just Mercy, that Jordan didn't really have to do a lot of heavy lifting because of Brie Larson and Jamie Foxx, his 2 co-stars. But in every scene where he's by himself, in every scene where you kind of are expecting Jordan to carry the movie, I thought that he kind of came up short. And that's not to say that the movie isn't good, like I mentioned earlier. 99% on Rotten Tomato from an audience point of view, 83 from critics. That's a really good movie. That's a movie that if you're going to go see on Valentine's Day, if you're going to go see that today, you should totally do it. It's a movie that I think a lot of people are going to enjoy. But for me, when I'm looking at this movie in a grand scheme of things, I was really hoping for more from Jordan. So let's talk about rewatchability. I didn't think this movie was very rewatchable. Of course, the one scene that you're going to want to rewatch, this isn't a spoiler alert for anybody, but there's a scene later in the movie where, of course, Johnny D gets off. Okay, I'm not breaking anything. The book is written. You can go look it up if you haven't read the book yet. I'm not spoiling anything for you because you know how these type of movies go. This isn't Green Mile. This isn't one of those movies where there's a twist ending. This is real life, and it's a movie that they made, so the guy's going to get off. So the court scene where Johnny D gets off, I think that would be the most rewatchable scene. I think that's the most rewatchable scene in any of these type of movies. In a similar vein to A Few Good Men, the Tom Cruise scene with Jack Nicholson, where it's you can't handle the truth. But the problem is that in that scene you have 2 excellent actors on screen, and I don't think that anybody on screen compares to those 2. When you talk about, you like I said, you got Tim Blake Nelson, you have Jamie Foxx, you have Michael B. Jordan. I don't think any of those guys. Jamie Foxx probably is the closest to Jack or Tom in that kind of area, the stratosphere of where their careers are or were. But Michael B. Jordan, instead of Tom Cruise in that scene, doesn't work. And I get it, you're basing it on real life, and I guess Bryan Stevenson wasn't as loud or boisterous, I guess. And maybe I'm being too critical of MJB. Maybe I'm being too critical. Maybe he needs to get a break. Maybe in real life, Stevenson wasn't that type of guy. Wasn't loud, and the whole reason that he's so reserved in this movie is because of that. I still think that there is something missing with this performance. And like I mentioned, if you're going to have a movie like this where he is the guy that you're going to put on the posters, he's the guy for the most part is going to be the guy that we're trying to build up in this movie, I don't think that this movie does a ton for his career. And I think you have to, if you're him, start looking at every time I make a movie, it needs to be good. Because he's the next guy up, I think, when it comes to getting him an Oscar. You look at, let's go back all the way to 2012, and the movies that Jordan has been in. It's Red Tails, it's Chronicle, it's Fruitville Station, it's Justice League, The Flashpoint Paradox, where he voices Cyborg. In 2014, The Awkward Moment. In 2015, Fantastic Four and Creed. And then he was in the HBO movie Fahrenheit 451. And you look at 2018, he's got Black Panther, which he did a great job in. He's got Kin, where he did pretty good. Creed 2 comes out in 2018. Just Mercy last year. And then this year, he is acting and producing in Without Romance. It's a thriller It's based on the 1993 Tom Clancy novel. Okay, so you're looking at his career, and something's missing. Very good television actor, was on The Wire, did a really good job there, has done a really good job of some his voice acting performances, but Michael B. Jordan is that next guy that we want to win an Oscar for. And if you continue to make bad movies, it's not going to work out for you. That's going to do it for us. Just Mercy, I'm going to give it a rewatchability score on a scale of 1 to 10, probably like a 4 or 5. I'm not going to rewatch this movie. I know how it ends. If it's on television, I'm probably going to keep scrolling. Probably going to keep it pushing. For you guys to watch it for the first time, though, it's a solid B+. Was not wowed. It's a pretty good Valentine's Day movie, I would say. You look at some of the other movies that are coming out around this time. When you're listening to this podcast, Sonic the Hedgehog will be out. Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey. That was a so-so movie we're going to talk about later. The Photograph, of course, with Issa Rae. That's going to be a Valentine's Day movie for you. Bad Boys for Life. Not a very good Valentine's Day movie. 1917, not a very good Valentine's Day movie. Downhill, I'm going to go see pretty soon, so I'll give you a review on that probably next week. The Gentleman was good. I'll give you a review later in the future. Little Women, one of my favorite movies, and Underwater was god-awful. I'm not even going to waste time on a review for that one. It was terrible. Don't go see that. Happy Valentine's Day. I'll talk to you guys next week. If you haven't listened to the Oscar review, go listen to it. And if you like this one, please send it to your friends. That's the way this podcast grows. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you on Monday.